on dungeons. I'm trying to think about how you would do it. I would say that if the last boss is gray, like their level is gray to a player, then if that player is in the group, there's no, like, nothing in the instance will drop gear or experience. Like, you can probably still enter the dungeon, but nothing will drop gear or experience. I think that's the best way to do it. Or quest reward. Why? Because it would remove, because you don't want to get to a position, so why is hardcore good? Hardcore is good because it causes people to want to go out of their way to do different things in the game that they would not normally do. Right? Like do first aid, do alchemy, like basically live off the land. So if people can just boost and do, also boosting will encourage more people to buy gold, which is not a super cool thing. Blizzard will never do any of this, so I'll just make death equal ghost, done. Trading, auction house, and mailbox will introduce botting. The Iron Man rule set negates the possibility for botting. I think that there should be 2 different rule sets, or maybe 3 different rule sets for Classic WoW Hardcore. There should be Hardcore, Hardcore Solo Self-Found, and Hardcore Iron Man. Where Hardcore is just, you know, you're playing the game, and if you die, you lose your character. Hardcore Solo Self-Found is that you can't trade, and Hardcore Iron Man is that you can't trade and you can't group. I think there should be probably 3 different tiers of it. Maybe 4, but that's what I'm thinking. Bots die too much for botting? Sounds like somebody who doesn't know how botting works. Hardcore popularity is because gameplay is way more similar to vanilla and TBC 2005 than Classic was? Yeah. People will get boosted in level and gear. They should only enter once. Boosting becomes non-effective if you reduce the mob experience by 90% and you can't get any gear out of the dungeon. How would you boost? Wait, what are you saying? So how would you boost? What are you boosting?
Thank you.
Like the amount of kills that you have of Scarlet Myrmidons? What are you talking about? The loot? I said you couldn't get loot. Like, I literally said that. Yeah, you can't get loot. All Blizzard needs to do is not allow dungeon spamming, auction house, and trading. I disagree with that. Personally, I do. I think that the auction house, I think being able to do dungeons for gear, and I think that trading is part of the experience of WoW. And I think that removing it wholesale is ridiculous. I do, however, think that there should be a separate mode that a character can opt into on the character creation screen that does all of those things. I just don't think it should be the baseline. Does that make sense? Like, you can, of course you should have a mode for that. Absolutely. But it should not be the baseline. No auction house to keep trading, so you have to be logged in.
Looks to me you've seen quite a bit of combat in your time, adventurer. If you haven't already, you should report to Gryan Stoutmantle. He heads up the People's Militia aimed at protecting the farmlands of Westfall. I bet he could use your help. You can usually find him in the stone tower on Sentinel Hill just off the road in the middle of Westfall.
The badge? Oh, it's nothing, Fish. Nothing you could handle anyhow. By the looks of you, I'd say Matthias is likely to mistake you for the cheese delivery boy instead of a proper rogue. Regardless, I've been assigned a job, and I've made a promise to deliver on that job. Speaking of which, deliver this package to Matthias, and he may give you a small task or 2. Get cracking.
There's a dwarven weaponsmith in Stormwind, Grimond Elmore, who sent word that he needs help with a delivery. I believe he...
That's not why, like, it's not because it's this, like, super hard, massively challenging thing. They literally just need to copy what the add-on is doing. Not exactly. I think that the reason why you don't have, for example, like auction house usage and stuff like that is primarily because you can't, and grouping for dungeons and stuff like that, you can't group with, is because you can't officially say this is a hardcore realm. Like, if you had a hardcore only server, most of those rules would not be necessary. They're only necessary because it's not an official server. You gotta do that. People are opposed to losing their character? Well, yeah, I mean, like, to me, I would not want to play a game that's just, like, stressful for no reason. And I think Classic WoW Hardcore is not stressful for no reason, and everything that you do has a risk and reward factor to it. I think trading is good. People still have to be concerned about dying, and trading won't give them anything near immunity. Yeah, like, it's not even going to be remotely close. Whole elements of needing to use professions and all the vendors, big element of hardcore with auction house, that all goes away. So you think that people will... Well, and I think that's true, right? Is that a lot of people, you're totally right, that they only want to have, what do you call it? That they only want to play solo self-found. And I think that's totally fine. I think playing solo self-found is totally okay. But personally, I think that most people, if they had the choice, would probably not do that. Yeah, people aren't going to list mats on the auction house for dirt cheap. Yeah, I don't think so. Can't wait to see level 1 fight clubs. Yeah, exactly. Solo self-found hardcore would be fun. Yeah, I think that they should absolutely have an option. Do you think there'll be a hardcore PvP server? Probably not. The grand scheme is kind of stressful, but your day and life kind of action pretty chill if you don't do stupid shit. Yeah, exactly. And then if you die anyway, you lose all the gear that you bought. Economy keeps this is a good idea. Professions will feel like professions. Yeah, I think so too. Always remember to skid about hardcore mode. I'm gonna ride it. Go for it. They should make a hardcore PvP server. It'd be hilarious. Yeah, I think it would be. They should get rid of petrification flasks, so it's a get out of jail free card. Well, like, Flask of Petrification is, like, a great question, you know? How do you, like, is Flask, because Flask of Petrification is a massive investment of money. Like, it takes a lot of time and money to make a Flask of Petrification. And is it okay that a person who uses a Flask of Petrification and invests that much into it gets that thing? And I'm very torn on this, and I don't really know what the answer is. I lean on the side of keep it, but at the same time,
need help?
I'm like 55-45 on this.
You found me, and by looking at you, I'd say the run and subsequent search may have been a great strain on your system, both mentally and physically. Would you like Renzik to show you the way to an inn, or are you ready for some work? Our operatives in the field are reporting heavy Defias activity south of Goldshire. The reports indicate that the Defias have taken over Jared's Landing and are now using it as a way to smuggle large quantities of contraband from Redridge to Westfall. I need you to infiltrate the dockhouse and get me that shipping schedule, adventurer. You will probably find it buried deep in the pockets of the dockmaster. An adventurer should you be discovered, SI. 7 will disavow all knowledge of your existence.
I mean, I don't know, like, just don't kill, like, one mob, more than one mob at a time, like, I mean, I guess probably more than normally, yeah, for sure, but, like, it's not, like, it's super hard, you just grind mobs. Somewhat? Yeah, I mean, somewhat, sure. Also, like, bubble hearthing, for example, like, they would have to change bubble hearthing or remove it. Like, those are little things that they would have to do. What I've been watching past few days is proof that people are thinking. Yeah. But it doesn't require thinking, it tests your knowledge of the game. Yeah, I think that's a really good factor, is that, like, a lot of the people, like, that die in, like, these hardcore compilations, like, for example, like, let's look at how many of these mistakes were minute-to-minute gameplay mistakes versus game knowledge mistakes. This is just somebody getting fucked. This is absolutely a game knowledge mistake. It's bad position. Like, before they even pulled this boss, they made a mistake by being here. This was just a mistake by being here. They should not have been here. Let's see here. Next. This is just the guy fell off the edge. So, like, there's not really much to say about that. This was kind of stupid. Like, this guy hit the bomb and he was like 10 feet away. But again, this is a game knowledge mistake.
Well,
this person thought that they were far
you're
enough
here
away.
To help with my delivery? Very good.
if you had played the game a lot, you would have known.
The Stormpikes are a respected dwarven clan and are well known for their fine and discerning taste.
I believe that he thought that he would be okay being there. Right? I remember being able to get up onto these, by the way. Like, you could jump at an angle and you could clip onto the side and then jump up to the top here. You can't, yeah, that's what I would have tried to do, and then I would hearth up at the top here. You can a path? Yeah. But anyway, so again, but that's also game knowledge, right? Yeah, those there. Like, if he had run this way, and then, like, for example, like, this is a game knowledge mistake, right? So if he had run all the way down here, like he had gone from here, down to there, and then had these dwarves chase him over to there, assuming this bomb didn't kill him, and then jumped down right here, he would have been able to hearth for 10 seconds and he wouldn't have died. So this is, again, like, this is a game knowledge mistake. This is just, look at his health. This is just that's just a situation. This is a minute-to-minute gameplay mistake. Definitely minute-to-minute gameplay. Let's see here. This, I think, is a strategic mistake. Guy should have had fire resistor on, and also they should have slept one of these. If they had slept one of these, he wouldn't have gotten distracted by the tank losing all the health, because he wouldn't have gotten hit by 2 mobs, he would have only gotten hit by 1, and because of that, he probably would have been able to bubble, because he wouldn't have been as stressed out about the tank, and he also would have had fire resistance aura.
Hey, Monty be me name and Rats be me game.
So,
Avast you scallywag.
What I'm saying is that
Are
classic
you
WoW
looking for work?
hardcore
We got a serious
is
rat problem down
mainly,
here and
like,
not enough
for
hands
example,
on the
this is
poop
really
deck.
an example.
What do you
Watch,
say?
this is-
All you need to
we've
do
been
is
out.
take this here rat-catching flute and play the melody around the vermin. They'll follow ye to the ends of the world. Just capture 5 of the little buggers and bring them back here. We need them alive.
Nope.
Bro, it's so fucking funny every time, man. Oh my god. Oh my god, wait. Yo, did I get DC'd? What the fuck?
Need assistance?
Okay, alright, we're gonna have to do it
These'll
again.
work nicely, matey. My
Okay,
brother
here
needs
we
them
go.
still ticking and kicking, else they go sour. You don't want to taste no sour rat kebab.
Nope.
It's a fucking immediate, some like Inspector Gadget spy
Pleased to meet
theme.
you. Me brother
Yeah, there we go.
Nipsey runs a rat kebab
Holy
operation
fuck.
on the other side of Deep Run. He needs to take this
So
here
anyway,
crater
like,
rats to him before
if
they
this
go
guy had- I
bad.
think this
Get a
is
move
also
on.
game
You have
knowledge,
ridden a
right?
tram before, aye?
So,
It's
Wargrash
easy.
Fire,
Just step aboard
what's
when
his
she
name?
arrives
Fire
and enjoy
Spin
the
or
ride.
Fire
And
Claw?
keep your arms and
It's
legs
some
inside your...
Wargrash Fire something. The guy at the top of this that's dancing. If you knew anything about classic WoW,
I need to
you
get
would know
closer.
that this bone pile is a bone pile because anybody who goes on it will fucking die because line of sight is
I'm
absolutely
out of range.
So again, this is another game, you know, it's like a
Far
game
away.
knowledge.
I need a target.
This is,
Ready.
I don't even
I
know
need to get closer.
what this
Not
is.
enough energy. I don't have enough.
I'm gonna be totally, this is, I'd say, minute-to-minute gameplay mistake. This one right here is just not
I
paying
can't do that
attention.
yet.
This is just,
Not enough energy.
that's not paying
I don't
attention.
have enough energy.
This one right here, this is a game
I
knowledge
don't have
mistake.
a target.
This person is clicking the blood of the heroes, as you can see it right there. And as soon as
It's
he
too
clicks
far
it, the
away.
mobs are gonna kill him. Not a big surprise, not a big deal. Game knowledge mistake.
I'm out of range. Need a target.
And what I'm saying, like my point that I'm making with all these deaths, is that these are deaths that it should have never even been possible for this outcome to occur. Like, before any sort of split-second decision-making is supposed to make in a panic situation happen, you should have done something fundamentally different.
Not enough energy. I don't have enough energy. Not enough energy.
Man.
I'm out of range.
This is just sad. That was just sad.
It's too far away.
This is just game knowledge, having the feathers, right? This right here, minute-to-minute
I'm
gameplay
out of range.
mistake. Let's see. This is just minute-to-minute gameplay. Well, do you guys see what I'm saying, though, about how a lot of these deaths are mistakes that players make, that they should have never even been in the position to make that mistake in the first place? Yeah, they're mitigatable disasters, exactly. So, like, that's the only point that I'm making with all this stuff. Oh wow, we have another one, thank God. I'll have to watch this one soon. Oops, put that by there. Can't wait to see you in this compilation. Yeah, for sure. Look at that, that's fast. Holy shit, that's fast. So yeah, that's what I kind of think. It's like running over Baby Crocs and Oldham. Yep, that was a complete mistake. I should have never been there. You are completely right. Four months ago, this video was released. Ever since then, every single day, people have asked me to watch it. And I figured, you know what? Let's coast already. Let's get comfy. And let's take a look at I cannot do this box in World of Warcraft. The following video contains subjects and footage that some viewers may find disturbing. All information contained within has been made publicly available by the people or entities discussed. Viewer discretion is advised. Those are the good days, boys. 14-inch televisions. Yeah. I had one of those.
Sure, but the question is, does the international addiction to an internet game represent a danger? Maybe, but there is also no indication that anything can slow the explosive growth of the intoxicating game called World of Warcraft.
Yep. That's how you knew it was a good game. Fox News doing documentaries.
What the fuck? What?
And by the way, you don't want that to do that either. You think you do,
but you don't. Yup. Dude, I love the 90s fucking intro, man.
You guys really nervous. Calling game cubes all day, every day.
Oh shit. My man, that guy's a gladiator.
Incredible 16 hours a day. His mother says his personality has changed and that he's become moody and violent.
Fuck
and his
yeah.
addiction is tearing the family apart.
Fuck yeah.
But our actions are going to matter more than any of these.
That's right. They sure did matter, didn't they?
Alright, go. Ready, guys? Let's do this.
Damn, that was some good shit. Bro, what a fucking intro. Holy shit.
Power level where
Bro, I watched this on that monitor.
And they get all the
At
great
Jeff's
experience.
house. Oh my god.
Honor, you'll find no finer rat kebab this side of Cosmodens. Poor Monty. Ever since the Nomarigan incident, he hasn't been the same. That boy has never seen an ocean in his life, let alone
So
being
good.
some kind of pirate.
Holy shit. There it is. The good times, the best times.
In the world of MMORPGs, you'll scarcely find anyone who hasn't heard of, if not played, the World of Warcraft. Released in 2004, it would quickly begin to make a name for itself, garnering worldwide praise for its innovation, accessibility, and the closeness to the community by its developer, Blizzard Entertainment. Both celebrated and condemned for its addictiveness. In the span of a few short months, it would not only become the most popular of the MMORPG genre, but also set the standard for all of those that would follow in its footsteps. Many would try, and over the course of 15 years, few would gain even a fraction of the player base of the seemingly unstoppable giant. Today, though, a much different...
People forget how big WoW was. Like, WoW was like, it was the game. It was the game people were talking about. It was like Fortnite in 2018 for 3 years. Probably longer than that, like 5 or 6 years. It was massive. It was the fucking game.
Different picture is painted. What was initially considered inspirational in the world of game development now leaves behind a controversial history marred with what many describe as betrayal, deception, and squandered potential, leaving many asking the question, how? A snapshot of history of a world created within a world, a microcosm of mayhem, a virtual playground for humanity to show each other their best and their worst. This is the story of Blizzard Entertainment and their iconic MMORPG, the World of Warcraft.
Damn. As I said, I really cannot emphasize enough how different the whole world was, like, back then. It was just so different. It was so crazy. Like this, yep, Y2K. Yep, listen to this.
At the dawn of the new millennium, the online world was growing rapidly. The intellect of man and the advancements of technology combined bestowed upon the world the creation of the internet. By Al Gore. News of a new Star Wars movie was spreading. The storyboard for The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring had been completed. Nerd culture was about to reach critical mass. And Bill Clinton did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Imagine that.
So entered the massively multiplayer online role-playing game, or MMORPG for short. The creation of the first MMO can be traced all the way back to the 70s, depending on your definition and standards, as they would be text-based, though they had existed for decades.
Bro, straight up, my mom played those text-based games in the 70s. Like, real shit, she actually played those all the way back then.
It was only near the new millennia that they would attract a sizable player base.
I actually found her notebook of all of her notes and maps that she had made. Maybe like a couple of years ago, I showed it to her. And she's like, yep, that's right. I'll have to show you guys sometime.
Although varying in implementation, they all shared the central idea of an online, persistent world to be shared with players from all over the globe. A genre unique in the sense that there is no planned end, no credits rolled, nor thanks for playing. Game content would be added as long as there are players playing, and the journey would only end when the player decided that it was over.
It never
a concept
stops.
That was remarkably foreign to many at the time. In these early years, many would try their hand in breaking through the genre, and overall, it would contain a niche audience. Some were beginning to make a name for themselves though, such as Origin Systems' leap into the online persistent world with Ultima Online, an isometric fantasy game memorable for its PvP combat in particular. Mythic Entertainment, who would later develop Warhammer Online, took their shot with the Dark Age of Camelot, a third-person take on Arthurian lore mixed with Norse mythology and high fantasy. Star Wars would make their debut into the world of MMOs with the 2003 release, The Star Wars Galaxies, an MMO with a more heavy focus on community and sandbox gameplay.
You know what's really kind of funny about it is it's almost like it is now, where every company is trying to go towards a metaverse, but back then they actually were, and Blizzard succeeded. Blizzard was the one whose metaverse effectively won out over everybody else.
And most prolific at the time was EverQuest in 1999 by Verant Interactive and 99 Studios, decrowning the previously reigning champion, Ultima Online. Just 24 hours after launch, it would quickly become the most subscribed MMORPG and,
I thought Ultima Online looked better, personally. I like the aesthetics of Ultima Online more.
10,000 subscribers. Yeah, really. 10,000
God
was the
damn.
most subscribed MMORPG at the time. It would eventually peak at over 500,000 years after its launch,
Holy
but
shit,
as
I didn't know
history has
that.
shown, this would yet be a fraction of the potential hidden within the genre.
Wow.
A potential that had yet to be realized.
That's a lot.
The MMO was on the rise, and the time to strike was nigh, and in the background, a beast was stirring, silently observing the strengths, the weaknesses, the success.
You have to understand, like, back then, Blizzard only made the best games. Like, you might not understand that now, right? But it's so different. Like, Blizzard was the From Software of the 90s and the 2000s. Like, they brought out a game, and it's like World of Warcraft was as far ahead of its, like, other competitors as, like, Elden Ring is farther ahead of any other game. Like, it was just so far ahead, it just wasn't even... It just put every other game in the fucking dirt.
Successes and the failures of the then relatively unexplored genre. Blizzard at this point already had established themselves as innovators. Diablo, StarCraft, Warcraft, the latter being a real-time
Warcraft 2 right there.
In a fantasy world.
Bro, I played this shit all the time.
An adventure, and having seen the success of other fantasy-based games such as EverQuest, the table was set. After halting development on an abandoned project, a small team of developers were left in.
That's Metzen right there. That right there is fucking
Not
Metzen.
ready yet. It's too far away.
Looking for inspiration on their next game. They had the IP, they had the funding, and most importantly, the timing.
The boys, yeah, all the boys.
September 2nd, 2001, long before Blizzard was big enough to hold their own convention, they held a panel at London's European Computer Trade Show, and it was then that the public for the first time saw the world of Warcraft.
Yep.
I can't do that. I need to
It
get
just
closer.
looks so much better than all the other old games. Like, it was just so far above, like, holy
I'm out of
shit.
range. Not ready yet.
Look at
I
that.
don't have enough.
Bill made it clear this was not the sequel to the popular RTS series, but rather something completely different. Players would transition from controlling pre-made heroes and progressing through a campaign to creating their own heroes and making their own stories. The game would be multiplayer on a
Well, they kind of had this actually in Warcraft. You guys remember that in the Frozen Throne? You had like that campaign for Rexxar, and like Rexxar was just by himself, and you would just like send him around on different missions and shit. And I remember whenever World of Warcraft came out, and I was like, well, what kind of game is it? And Zach told me, he's like, you know, that's the Rexxar campaign in Warcraft 3. I'm like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, but that's like the whole so bad. Like, that's what it was, yeah. I don't remember what it was called, but yeah, that was the first foray into it that they made.
massive scale, bringing together fans of not only the Warcraft series, but of MMOs as a whole. The reaction, however, was mixed. Some waited with eager anticipation, trying to imagine their beloved series making its leap into the massively multiplayer setting, and many were upset at the abrupt change of focus, preferring Blizzard to concentrate on what
See,
was
I just want you guys to see this, just so you can know that there's nothing that has ever changed. Okay? It doesn't matter, like, he knew he was 20 years ahead of his time. But yeah, it's always the way it's been.
on what was proven to work. Instead of taking a gamble into unfettered territory, the idea of paying a monthly fee to continue playing was a hard pill to swallow at the time.
It was, bro. Like, I'm telling you, $15 a month, man. Like, $15 a month is like $25 or $30 a month nowadays. Like, 15 bucks, like, I would get allowance of like maybe 20 or 25. I don't remember exactly what it was. And like, it still is, but bro, like, back then it was even more. Like, that's all I'm saying. Like, it was even more. Yeah, it's like $49. It's a long time to play the game back then. It really was. Like, that's why I didn't. How do I report a GM?
especially by Blizzard fans who had grown accustomed to the one-time purchase models set standard by the company. Work would continue on the project, however, and the very first interview would be claimed by the Computer Gaming World magazine. By this time, EverQuest was the clear reigning champion, but the genre as a whole had one fatal flaw, and that's the learning curve. XP loss, gear loss, and even permanent character death were commonplace in nearly every game of the genre.
That's right, because fuck that. I don't want to be this guy, alright? Like, I want to be able to play the game and relax, you know? Yeah, you get your shit fucked up. And, like, this is what I said before, right? Remember I was bringing up how every game was trying to be the last big game? World of Warcraft tried to be the next big game. And that's why it was so successful. Is they did away with the shackles that the previous games gave the players.
Combined with a large time investment in playing, it cultivated a very niche and hardcore community, and the everyday casual player would quickly succumb to the intense difficulty and seek entertainment from other, more forgiving games. It was a genre with a focus on character progression, with death penalties centering around character regression and a steep learning curve to go along with it. However, this transitionary period would prove to be a key moment where players for the first time would leave single-player games to this online sprawling world. They were incomparable to each other, and although it's funny to think now, it was an intimidating thing. The time investment was, and still is, incredibly high. You had to have...
Oh yeah, there were so many, because there were also all these news stories. Like, I remember I started playing the game in like 2006, and like my relatives were like, they're like, do you know, like, so you let him play World of Warcraft? Well, I have a friend at work, and her son started playing World of Warcraft, and next thing she knows, he's smoking the reefer. And my dad would be like, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's my son, you know? He'd been totally fine with that, right? But just in general, he didn't give a fuck. He was like, whatever.
The computer, you had to have a good enough graphics card to run it, you had to have internet, and you had to pay a subscription. The amount of hurdles standing between the average person and the game were already high, and combined with the unforgiving gameplay of the landmark titles representing the genre, it was just too much for the average person. But it was this person, this untapped market of new and casual players that Blizzard would set their sights on.
You know, like the same thing Final Fantasy did 10 years later.
I'm out of
Completely
range.
different style
That
of approach
ability isn't
during
ready.
a time when XP
Yep.
loss was the bare minimum
I need to
penalty.
get
World
close.
of
Not
Warcraft
ready
made
yet.
you simply run back to the
The
start.
great thing here is that when you die, and
I'm
death
out
is
of
an
range.
inevitability in all these games, it's really not that big of a deal. All other online
ability
RPGs make death
isn't
a really
ready
bad thing, because
Yep.
dying should be bad, right? Well, in World of Warcraft,
I need
pretty
to
much
get
all that
closer.
happens is you sit out for a bit, respawn back at a graveyard, you run and get your corpse and you respawn. You don't lose experience points, you don't lose
Question
your items or
tradition.
anything.
Forge your own path.
Mobile took years in other
Inventory
games.
is full.
World of Warcraft, it took months for most players.
I need
Language
a target.
systems were
I don't have a
complicated,
target.
Holy
I need a
shit.
confusing,
target. I don't have a
requiring
target.
external literature to understand. World of Warcraft systems were relatively straightforward.
Yep.
Even
Too far
character
away.
stat and template choices were often
That
permanent.
ability
World of
isn't
Warcraft
ready.
featured costly, reversible methods
Not
of
enough
character
energy.
progression
I
and
don't
Yeah, you have to remember, 50 gold respecs back in the culture of 2004
I can't do that yet.
was an easy respec. That's
That
like, oh, you
ability
can just
isn't
go and do
ready
whatever
yet.
you want.
Not ready.
Yeah, that was an easy fucking respec, because
that
you have to
yet.
remember, like, all of the games, like, basically,
I need to get closer.
like, culture around, like, Dungeons and Dragons, right, was
Not ready yet.
influenced primarily by
It's too
Tolkien.
far away.
But, like, every bit of, like, fantasy gaming for, like, a very, very long time, and, like, you could argue still now, was derivative of the original.
That ability isn't ready.
That's why you have dice rolls for critical hits, and you see
I can't
that
carry
DNA in, like, every fucking fantasy game. And like, back in Dungeons and Dragons, it was harder to respec as well, especially in the earlier versions. That's my understanding.
I'm out of range.
customization. In other games, you had areas designed for large groups of high-level players, referred to as raids, who were commonly out in the open world, which resulted in having to compete against one another for kill credit. Due to this, there was a greater sense of urgency to complete the raid in its entirety in one sitting before any other team had a chance to bring unwanted competition. Marathon sessions of guilds setting up 24-hour shifts was a common strategy to maintain dominion of these raids, in many cases to the detriment of the health of the players. This Final Fantasy XI boss was engaged for 18 hours until players were forced to quit and began to faint and vomit.
But guys, he was at 10%. Just keep going. It's only 2 more hours. Yeah, come on. You're almost there. Remember that? Yeah, that's how serious this game used to be.
That ability isn't ready
People
yet.
back in the day were ridiculous at these games.
I can't do that. Not
Killer
enough
was
energy.
nerfed shortly after the update. This was the state of the endgame for most MMOs in these early stages. However, World of Warcraft had been one of the first MMOs to standardize instance raids, where players and guilds could create their own unique raid instances, resetting on a weekly basis. And as for the raid bosses themselves, although today seen as archaic and simplistic, at the time they were quite advanced. In a genre.
Oh, it's like you look at this thing. What is this? What is this? The Triangle Dragon, the Lord of Geometry? Like, what the fuck does this? What the fuck does this do? You know what I mean? Like, this is the the Lord of Geometry. Like, of course not. Like, what the fuck? And so, like, whenever WoW came out and like it had instances, it sounds really cool to have these outdoor raids until you have the outdoor raids. And then you realize how fucking annoying it is. That being said, we did have a lot of fun in Classic WoW doing the world bosses. It was fun. Having a little bit of it is okay. I hope they have that in Ashes of Creation.
But where raid bosses boiled down to having a unique name with a higher health pool and increased damage, World of Warcraft would add unique, and often at the time, complex mechanics that required teamwork and thought to overcome, which in turn would become one of the game's major selling points. The worlds had NPCs, but were commonly static, whereas the world of Azeroth felt more alive with dynamic NPCs going about their daily lives. Simply put, what it didn't invent, it improved. MMOs.
And that's the thing, is like, yeah, back then there were just characters that just sat around. Like, so many of the things that you take for granted now, like, for example, like in New World, there's no loading screens whenever you're running around in New World. World of Warcraft was the first MMO, really, or first big MMO I know, to just not really have loading screens. You just go from one zone to another zone. That, just like that simplistic thing that, like, everybody takes for granted now was gigantic back then. It was huge.
Were in a constant state of almost theirs, and World of Warcraft was the first one to bridge that gap and bring it into a more mainstream audience, and it reaped the rewards because of that. The game would continue development throughout the years, with teasers being released in the form of magazine interviews and trailers, keeping the curious onlooker abreast on its direction. And after a long alpha and beta testing period, the moment of truth came on November 23rd, 2004.
Yep. Oh man, guys, I can't believe that these new games can't keep these servers up. It wasn't like this back in the day. I tell you something, back in the day they used to run a whole lot better. Yeah. Ain't shit changed. Yeah, it was worse. Because back then,
appealing to the casual gamer worked well. A little.
Back then, the developers didn't care. Like, now they hire a PR person or a community manager to pretend like they care about you. Back then, the developers were like, fuck, really messed this one up, huh? Oh, we'll fix it eventually. I'm gonna go to lunch. Yeah, like, they didn't even give a fuck.
Too well. Blizzard in no way was prepared for the frenzy of players eager to get into the world. Disconnects, lag, and rollbacks would persist heavily for the opening months, and still consistently through the next couple of years. Forums daily would be filled with outrage, demands for a refund, and even threats of lawsuits. The miraculous thing about it, though, is that
Nothing
it didn't even
changed.
seem to slow its growth. The launch today is looked at as disastrous, and yet still...
Nobody cares about a bad launch. Literally nobody gives a shit. They will come back and play the game later on if it's good. That's why I tell people, it's like every launch is going to be shit. Why is it going to be shit? Because it doesn't really matter. Look at this, RAM or video card? Yes, this was a real question back in the day. This was back in the Stone Ages. Like, people had to connect. There was like an aqueduct with water, and you had to connect that to the stone cutting device, and then the stone cutting device's kinetic energy would power the hamster wheel that would cause the computer to turn on. And that's what it was.
People came back again and again. How can a game that's playable maybe 50% of the time hold such a demand? Well, it's because it was that good.
It was good.
Years of development had paid off as World of Warcraft quickly became a hit, almost immediately dwarfing all competition at the time and robbing them of their player bases. It was the vampire of the MMO industry at its release, and it would suck the life force out of every single previously mentioned staple of the genre.
But there was one unfortunate thing. The unfortunate thing was it launched right when WoW launched. So WoW brought the whole industry down, not just us. Every online game out there went down as soon as WoW went out. WoW was like a huge succubus of players went over there and drove into WoW. And it drove all our numbers down.
60 levels of progression and a world of challenges awaited the eager player base, and there would be many landmark moments just waiting to be claimed. Players rushed to the max level, and the title of the world first level 60 went to a player named Zenith, a troll rogue on the Stormreaver server on December 3rd, 2004, a little less than 2 weeks after release. By today's standards, incredibly slow, but back then, a no-life nerd, as onlookers weren't shy of expression. On January 30th, 2005, the game would see its first raid cleared with the death of Onyxia, taken down by the Guild Ruined on the Proudmoore server, and many players for the first time got to see the famed epic quality items that she hoarded.
Oh my god!
Blizzard would spend the following years perfecting their craft. As their subscriber base increased, so too did their budget, and more servers would quickly be added to support the booming player base. New patches would not only release new raid tiers, but also systems, items, and much more. And
it was a lot of
shit. Same year, the subscriber base would see its biggest surge for the next decade.
It was fucking insane, man.
Okay guys, these eggs have given us a lot of trouble in the past. Does anybody need anything off this guy?
One of the earliest videos to go viral in the World of Warcraft was created by the guild Pals for Life. The guild was strategizing on how to clear out a particularly tricky room in the upper Blackrock Spire raid.
I think it's a pretty good plan. We should be able to pull it off this time. What do you think, Abdul? Can you give me a number crunch real quick?
Yeah, give me a sec. I'm coming up with 32.33, repeating, of course.
People still use that.
Survival.
They still use that meme.
It's a lot better than we usually do.
Alright, chums up.
Ready, guys?
Let's do this. Leroy Jenkins! Oh my god, he just ran in.
Yep.
Save him! Oh geez, stick to the plane!
Oh Jesus, let's go. Stick to the plane.
Dude, I remember having this video on my computer.
A group member, Leroy, charges in prematurely with reckless abandon, causing the death of the entire group.
Stick to the plan.
I can't move. Am I lagging, guys? I can't move. What the hell? I can't hear you. Oh my god. The eggs keep spawning. More respawning. I don't think you can cast with that shit. Oh my god. Take it off. I got it. Take it off.
I can't move.
Oh my god.
It was bad.
God damn it, Leroy.
At least I got chicken.
The video was later revealed to be staged, but nonetheless, it caught on like wildfire, and it was shared across multiple websites and forums, making it one of the first videos for World of Warcraft to gain viral popularity. Onlookers were intrigued.
Man.
Word of mouth proved to be a prolific
It sounded so scripted. No, but like what you don't understand is like back then people didn't think if something was scripted or not. Like it wasn't even in their mind. It was just like, this is a funny video. Wow, this is funny. This guy's so dumb. You know what I mean? Like it just wasn't even, it wasn't even on their radar.
Advertising vehicle for the game. It's hard to say today just how many people watched the video, as some of the uploads have been lost.
Millions
the
and
original upload
millions
on
and
Warcraft
millions of
Movies
people.
today sits at nearly 19 million views, and the original YouTube mirror reached at least 46 million before
Holy
it was taken
shit,
down.
that's a lot.
And surviving mirrors today sit at a total combined count of around 24 million.
88
Regardless,
million
it's by
views.
far the most viewed Warcraft-related video, even to this day,
Oh
over
my
15
God.
years later. It was so popular, in fact, that it was later featured as a question in the trivia show Jeopardy, just a few months later in November.
This role-playing game, out in 2004, returns to the world of Azeroth, where heroes like Leroy Jenkins do battle. And that would be the world of Warcraft.
Pathetic.
Yeah.
The Leroy craze wasn't the only phenomenon to spawn from the game, though. September of 2000.
It's like, I'm trying to think of like what would be the equivalent of Leroy Jenkins now. Like, what's a meme that was on the same level as Leroy Jenkins? Gangnam Style? Let me solo her? No, it's kind of like, I don't know. Harambe? Yeah, yes, I think that's a great example. Harambe, it was as prevalent as Harambe. Exactly, and isn't that scary? It was as prevalent as Harambe.
5 saw the release of the Zul'Gurub raid, the final encounter of which was a boss named Hakar.
Oh, I
He
know
had
that
an
guy.
ability called Corrupted
He's an
Blood,
asshole.
which dealt some damage to a player, and if they were to stand too close to another, it would spread to that person. In a contained environment, it's just another raid mechanic. That is, until one player, intentionally or otherwise, managed to create a virtual pandemic that spread across every single server. The mechanic had one fatal flaw. By getting a pet companion afflicted with the disease and then dismissing it, it would persist when the pet is summoned once more. This person did just that, but in a crowded area, and spread the affliction to every nearby player and NPC, and as long as there were living hosts, there was no escape.
I love how this is exactly what happened with COVID. Like, this is exactly what happened. Is like they never really got rid of it. Like, because it wasn't like, oh, the people would just like, they would, they would stay by themselves. Nope, they just run around and, it just kept happening.
Entire cities became infected
It was
by
real.
the plague. Word quickly spread, and other players intentionally started spreading the disease.
Yep, just like the people
Ironforge,
licking things
Stormwind,
in Walmart.
Orgrimmar, every major capital city was a death hub and was
I don't have a
uninhabitable
target.
by lower-level players.
Yep.
The spread would
I need a
continue to go
target.
on for days until Blizzard
don't have a
eventually
target.
hotfixed the disease. But the resulting chaos remains to this day to be one of
It
the
was
most memorable
legendary.
moments in the game's history, and has even been used in real-world research of the spread and destruction
Isn't
of
ready.
contagious disease.
Not enough. I can't do that yet. Inventory is full.
Yeah, it's real easy to be an asshole behind a keyboard and get away with it. Shows just how well shit clings to the asshole. Example, Achira and his band of dingleberries. You are added to the to be camped list. Congratulations, you have stooped lower than any other guild in MMO history. That silly fool has no idea what is to come.
I need a target. I don't have a target.
Though there
I
are
need a
many
target.
memorable landmark moments
Oh
in the
my
game's
God.
history, some are more controversial than others.
There sure were.
2006, on the Illidan server, a player by the name of Phajin passed away suddenly from a stroke.
Yep.
And in memoriam of
I
one
need
of her
to get
favorite
closer.
YouTubers,
Not
Fishy,
ready.
the guild had decided to host an annual server to pay one final tribute to her. There were two problems, though. It was publicly advertised on the Realm forums,
and it was on a PvP
Illidan
server.
was a PvP server,
Yep.
where players of the opposite faction could freely attack one another. A guild, Serenity Now, saw the thread, and they felt that they would join in to pay tribute, but in a very different way. Having snuck through a nearby tunnel leading into the zone, the entire raid team prepared to crash the funeral. As players lined up to pay tribute to their friend, the raid quickly closed in on the location, and to make matters worse, in an effort to roleplay, many of the attendees had unequipped their armor and weapons, leaving them defenseless against the surprise onslaught.
Remember the fucking video where, like, as soon as that happened, they started playing the Scatman? Like, the second this, like, whenever they opened, I heard it in my mind, you know? Yeah, exactly.
The funeral was quickly and easily dispatched. Serenity Now would become infamous on their server, and the crash still stands today as one of the most controversial in-game events in its entire history.
It sure
All
was.
of these moments serve a crucial role in the telling of the history of the game, and they would serve as a reminder of the reasons why it became such a success. It's due not only to its own merits, but perhaps even more drastically by the community that the world of Azeroth was comprised of.
Yeah, absolutely.
This world, however, was about to change.
How many of you have played World of Warcraft?
There he is, Mike Morhaime.
Due to the success of World of Warcraft, Blizzard for the first time held their own event. The convention centered solely around a Blizzard games named BlizzCon. This was, and remains to be, a unique aspect of the developer to hold a personalized convention tailored to their product. A form of celebration of not only the games that they're creating, but also the already massive community that they've built. The strong focus on the community would be something that Blizzard would become known for, and it created a loyalty of sorts from the players.
It was, like, you were, like, there were people that, like, for example, whenever Diablo 3 came out, everybody was like, wow, a lot of my friends, we all just went over and played Diablo 3. Whenever Overwatch came out, we all just went over and we played Overwatch. Why? I mean, it's a Blizzard game. Of course we're gonna play it. StarCraft 2 comes out, yeah, we're gonna play Blizzard game. Yeah, absolutely. And, like, you have to think about how fucking ridiculous it was that this company was so popular and so well liked that they could have set up, and this is, like, also, by the way, like, nowadays we have other companies that do things like this. We have, like, you know, FanFest for Final Fantasy. We have the Witcher convention that they did recently too. But back then, like, this was unheard of. This company was so popular, this was so big, that people would travel all around the world and all around the country to come together and celebrate how much they love the games. It was nuts, man. QuakeCon? Yeah. Yeah, ExileCon? Yeah, there's a lot of them. BlizzCon was one of the originals.
It's too far away. It felt like it was more than people sharing their combined passion for the world that they created.
You guys take care of us, man. You guys really take care of us.
Diablo, StarCraft, Warcraft. Fans from around the world would plan vacations around it. Longtime friends and guildmates would meet each other in person for the first time. And BlizzCon as a whole would become a very crucial part of Blizzard's identity going forward. And at the very first convention in October of 2005, a bombshell announcement was unveiled. The World of Warcraft is about to get bigger with the release of its first expansion, The Burning Crusade.
That shit was crazy. It's like, you have to imagine, like, how fucking, like, how much you must have felt like you were just, like, you were there, you were in it, right? Because, like, this game is, like, the biggest pop culture phenomenon of, like, all time. Like, this is so huge. And then, like, you go to fucking the convention, and then, like, fucking Burning Crusade gets announced. And it's just, like, it won't stop. We just can't stop winning, you know? It was nuts, man.
The expansion boasted what players had come to expect from the World of Warcraft.
Hail, adventurer.
They would step
Wild
in
animals
to
are
the
growing
world
more and more
of
aggressive the
Outland,
farther we get from Goldshire, and the Eastvale logging camp suffers nearly constant attacks from wolves and bears. We could use your help out here.
Yes, Murlocs have settled in and around the streams of Eastern Elwyn. Much more. It would add on to and improve in just about every aspect of the game.
It did.
But it's still 2005, and there's a lot of game left to conquer before players began worrying about their foray into the Outland. There were dragons to kill and DKP to acquire.
DKP, Dragon
Odd
Kill
groups
Points.
got left, even groups got
God.
right. That means 1, 3, 5, 7 left, 2, 4,
Like
6,
the Defias
8.
gang in Northshire wears burlap masks,
Casual,
but the Defias in
hardcore,
Elwyn
and
wear
everything in between. And there were some who took it even further beyond.
No reason to lose the main tank, and I am blaming you because I blame myself. I can fucking do it. Everyone can do it. Do it right.
I've got a real problem on my hands.
He's not wrong. You understand? They're wiping on Magmadar. Like, he's actually right. Like, yeah, what do you mean, like, you can't do it? It's Magmadar. Get up and fucking figure it out.
Serious or angry nature
Get out of the
would
fire,
start to spring
idiot.
up at this point.
See
Those
you
raid
around.
leaders chewing out members for failing and properly performing the mechanics of the bot fight.
Yep.
Well,
Crush him was fair than turret.
Who the fuck was that? Crush him! What the fuck? Whelps! Left side! Even side! Many whelps! Now handle it! Fuck!
The most prolific of which being
Just like the pause. Fuck. Oh my god, man. It was just so good. And like these people, by the way, these people weren't like
For the Alliance.
this wasn't like a put on. Like they did this for free. Like this is actually how they acted. This is actually how they talk and everything.
dives, the raid leader of the guild, Wipe Club. Onyxia at this point had been slain by numerous guilds,
Yep.
and after some
Still happens.
unsuccessful
Oh, yeah.
attempts, one of the members decided to record what would later become one of the biggest meltdowns in history, the Onyxia wipe animation.
You have to think that like that meme is still used. Like people still use 50 DKP minus, and like that has become a gaming meme in general, an internet meme. Period. It is a timeless meme.
Much like Leroy, animations quickly become popular.
Yep.
It highlighted the side of coordinating
There are people that
40
use that,
people,
don't even know what it
clearing
means.
the challenging raids.
Don't play like you're just fucking going through the motions. You'll get your goddamn loot eventually. Oh, damn it!
Yep.
Fucking bullshit!
So,
Yeah,
and,
I know,
and
right?
you know what that was, right? That's like the fucking, the little fucking gray mics on a stand with like the little circular platform that you buy at Circuit City for $19.99. He just knocked that shit over right there. Yep, I have one. Yep, I had the headset, so I was good.
Well, we're all gonna get attacked because we have no warlock here. Nice job, you fucking idiot!
True.
Shut the fuck up! You stupid fuck!
Is that Ragnaros?
These videos would paint players in a much less flattering light,
Fuck
as
yeah,
many
dude.
people would become so obsessed that they would realize responsibility, follow the contact with friends, quit workers school,
Hell yeah.
and in extreme cases cause harm to themselves. In Korea, in June 2009, the 4-month-old child of a couple would suffocate when left unsupervised for several hours as the parents were playing World of Warcraft in an internet.
See, like, I hate whenever these articles like this comes out, like it's actually the game's fault. Like, this is the game's fault that this happened. Not exactly. It's so disingenuous.
As the parents were playing World of Warcraft in an internet cafe, the phrase World of Warcraft was coined, putting out on the dark side of video game addiction, particularly that of the noise and the consequences of obsession, something that the media was not reporting. World of Warcraft due to its popularity, would find itself at the center of this war against video game addiction.
Hell yeah.
He's playing them an incredible 16 hours a day. His mother says his personality has changed and that he's become moody and violent.
Bro, like, imagine playing 16 hours a day, you don't even have T1. Bro, like, I mean, for real, like, how do you not have T1 at 16 hours a day? Like, Jesus, man, like, you gotta up your numbers up, man. Like, what are you doing?
His addiction is tearing the family apart.
To many, it was more than a game. It was a virtual life with a graphical interface. It attracted people from all walks of life and blended them together in this online world. News of the Burning Crusade remained to be scarce, as it was still under NDA in the Friends and Family Alpha. A blog post teasing new features would be shared scarcely, but otherwise, it was still largely a mystery outside of what was shared at the 2005 BlizzCon. The excitement was palpable,
This was the
and
original
players
Dark
from
Portal.
all over the world
That's what it
couldn't
used to
wait
look
to get
like
into the Outland.
before the
beta test for the
Burning
expansion
Crusade.
started not too long after, as players got to discover and explore its features, and shortly after, World of Warcraft would become the focus of the cartoon series South Park, with their Make Love, Not Warcraft episode.
I remember I watched this episode with my dad at his house whenever it came out. We watched it on television. Because look, we would watch South Park every time it would come out, right? And so like, we just watched this one. Yeah, I remember this so well. It was so fucking good. I remember I put a link to this back whenever it came out.
The episode detailed the boys' fight against the hacker antagonist.
It's a good time.
And their struggle with video game addiction. So on release, it was an instant success. Many years later, series co-creator Trey Parker detailed his worries with the episode, revealing that he even tried to get it pulled as he feared that it simply wasn't funny. But
and it was it was the best one of all time. It got voted best one of all time. And also, I remember what I loved about it the most is that all of the everything that they were using in the game were actually like real items. It wasn't just like some bullshit. They actually used real items. Besides Sword of a Thousand Crews, which was hungry and cold. Besides that, it was all the actual items.
As history has shown, the episode would become an instant success, and despite the fact that the series at this point now has over 300 episodes, it remains to be one of their most popular to this day.
Yep. Remember Pwned? Perfectly Owned? Holy shit, man. That's some fucking 2004 energy. Oh my god. Yep.
January 16th finally came, and it marked the beginning of a new era. The official end of World of Warcraft. People lined up outside of stores and tents in the streets of Poland. Large parties were held, and the community was stronger than ever, and pulled together with their one shared trait: their fear of women. Their
Both. Yes, exactly. No, it was that was what was like. I remember my mom and I. We went there at the midnight release from Burning Crusade because we pre-ordered the game. So back then, pre-ordering a game, the reason why you pre-ordered was so the like GameStop or EB Games or Best Buy or wherever you were getting it from knew how many copies to stock. Because, you know, they'd have, it was basically like you could go there whenever the game was out, and you could be, like, guaranteed that you could do that if you had a pre-order. So my mom and I would pre-order the game, and I remember we waited, it was at fucking Steak and Shake, and we waited there, and, like, we drove by the fucking, what was it, the GameStop. And then we were just talking about, we were talking about going to the Dark Portal because we were both 60 by then, right? And then we look over and it's like 11:45 and there's like a fucking million people there. And so we rush over and I got my copy of Burning Crusade with my mom the night of BC release, man. And it was the same day that I don't have it up right now because I think it's in the wash. It's the night that I got it up. The Burning Crusade.
Ability isn't ready yet.
I was like, you know what?
Do that.
She's like, yeah. I go home, I play that shit all night. I wake up the next day, I spoil it out. Snow day. I swear to fucking God, the next day was a snow day. I stayed home, played the game all day.
Of love for the game. At this point, it had amassed roughly 8 million subscribers by the expansion's release, never once reporting a loss, and holding on to the lion's share of the market. In the background stirred some serious competition, however. Mythic Entertainment, who developed the Dark Age of Camelot, sought to compete against Blizzard with an MMORPG adaptation of the renowned Warhammer series. Due to its similar fantasy setting, holding orcs, magic, elves, and wizards, many thought it to be the direct competitor to World of Warcraft, and deemed it to be one of the first of many would-be WoW killers during the time. Another such game was the Age of Conan, Ivorian Adventures, developed by Funcom, who was mostly known in the MMO community for Anarchy Online in 2009. The selling points would be impeccable graphics and a new and fresh combat system in a dark and visceral world, featuring the fatality mechanic, where players could execute each other in brutal fashion, often described as the Mortal Kombat of MMORPGs. And The Lord of the Rings Online by Turbine was also in development, an MMO of one of the most celebrated franchises in nerd culture history, certainly posed as a serious threat to Blizzard at the time. Though these contenders would be far off from release, the competition was beginning to get fierce.
Well, it really wasn't, because all of these games weren't very good.
That ability
like WoW just
ready
played
yet.
so much better than these
yet.
other games.
That ability isn't ready
Like
yet.
it just really wasn't even a competition.
Not ready
It was
yet.
so far ahead.
You can't do that yet.
The Burning Crusade had been as exceptional as its predecessor. Months and months of doomsaying was put to the test. Did the Burning Crusade kill the World of Warcraft? Of course, the answer is no. The expansion was a major success, and subscription base rose even more rapidly as players experienced the classes evolved, and the gap between them was lessened, while still retaining the features that made them special. The raids were more challenging, the bosses more complex, and offering more to conquer to the ever-growing subscriber base.
Burning Crusade was basically just a better version of the game. Like, there were some things that vanilla was better with. Like, I think world building in vanilla was better, and there were some other advantages of vanilla WoW. But Burning Crusade, for pretty much all end-game activities, was just an improvement on the game.
The release itself proved to be even more difficult for players than what they had encountered in the base game, with many lists today, the plethora of Burning Crusade bosses,
one of the best bosses
the
of all
hardest in
time.
the game's history, even over 14 years later, with some of them going unkilled by 99% of the player base until Blizzard intervened themselves to make them easier.
I need to get
The
and even
expansion
then, it was
today
still hard.
is remembered for having an extensive process for gaining entry to the raids, and a large series of quests served as an alternate form of character progression. The PvP system had evolved to be more competitive with the new arena mode, where players create custom teams and battle in small-scale matches to the death, setting the stage for future competitive events in Blizzard's attempt to gain a foothold into the growing esports scene. The Alliance, for the first time, got to experience a new class to them, the Shaman, and for the Horde, the Paladin, both with 2 new races added to the game, the Draenei and the Blood Elf. 5-man dungeons rose back to the forefront with the advent of the more challenging heroic difficulty. The expansion was packed with features and upgrades in its design.
It was
stands as one of
insane.
Blizzard's most critically acclaimed releases, even to this day.
I can't do
Lord
that
of the
yet.
Rings also saw its
Not
release
enough
in
energy.
2007 to serve as competition for World of Warcraft, and although receiving favorable
Such dog shit. Like, I mean, really, it was just such absolute fucking dog shit compared to WoW. Like, I'm sorry, but like, WoW was just so far above it in terms of like combat and playability. It was just not even remotely close. Like, it was just, yeah, I don't care. Like, it looked just. The thing is, like, every other game looked like it came from
You can't do that yet. That ability.
That was the way I
isn't
feel.
ready
Like, yeah,
yet.
it looked like it
Not
came from
ready yet.
1999.
That
And,
ability
like, WoW
isn't
was the
ready
first
yet.
game that like really looked like
You can't do that
at
yet.
the time.
Not enough energy.
World release at the time, it couldn't compare to the size and scope of WoW,
No.
selling under 200,000 copies in the first months of release.
Yep.
and dwindling shortly thereafter. The game does still run today, supported by a niche community, and is hovering around 40,000 active players at the time of this video.
Better than New World.
The Burning Crusade pressed on, undaunted, and in the following BlizzCon in August, the next expansion, The Wrath of the Lich King, was announced.
So he missed something here. Wrath of the Lich King was not announced, it was leaked. And the guy, whenever he announced Wrath of the Lich King, said, for anybody who already knows what this is, your account is getting banned.
Well met.
Like, they straight up
Excellent.
made a joke about
Thanks
it.
to you, I should be able to complete the order.
Players were teased of the land of Northrend, where they had once visited in the events of Warcraft 3.
You have to remember, like in Warcraft 3, the end of Warcraft 3 was like Arthas beating Illidan. So like in the context of WoW, we just beat Illidan. Well, the next guy is the Lich King, right? Like that's the next thing. It's gotta be the next thing, right? And so like the Lich King was seen as like the last boss of WoW. Like, yeah, you had things like Sargeras, Deathwing, like Deathwing's in Warcraft 2, but like really it was fucking the Lich King, right? And like, so whenever this shit happened, it was like, holy fuck, it's like, we really out here, boys. This is it.
Here, where they would face off against Arthas Menethil as the Lich King. 10 more levels, a new class, the Death Knight, new zones, and siege vehicle combat were just a few of the many new features teased at the convention, and due to the success of the Burning Crusade, there was little question if it would be just as good. 2008 came, and on the one-year anniversary of the release of the Burning Crusade, World of Warcraft had a landmark 10 million subscribers.
You have confirmed my fears, adventurer. The Murlocs are a threat we cannot ignore. Tell Marshal Dugan of Malachi and Rolf's deaths, and report to him that the Murlocs in Eastern Elven cannot be contained by our current troop presence. I know we don't have many troops to spare, but hopefully
the excitement for it and everything about that was just huge. Like, you really felt like you were like part of it, like you were really moving something. It was happening right then and right there. And also, like, another thing that like Mad Season's not really talking about is the fact that like at the same time in like Vanilla WoW, BC, like Wrath, like in the middle of those right there, that's whenever like internet personalities first started coming into play, right? You had people like Athene, you had people like Swifty, and these are like the original dawns of making YouTube like online content. Like, yeah, you had, well, yeah, it was like a Hobbs, like, and you had a few other people too. Like, and these guys were just like absolute fucking legends, man. Like, everybody was talking about them, everybody was thinking about them. Yeah, Kungen, like, yeah, you've got a few more too. It was massive. And like, what's so crazy is like, literally Swifty is still streaming to this day. And he's still successful too. It's fucking incredible, man.
Absolutely dwarfing any and all competition.
Yeah.
The up-and-coming contender, The Age of Conan, was released in May of 2008 and received generally positive reviews by the media, and had sold over 1 million copies by the end of its release month, though ultimately the game had failed to retain this impressive surge of subscribers. Although reviewers worldwide had praised the game, the player base condemned it as being unfinished and rushed, as subscriptions quickly declined, and just 1 year later, Funcom would perform a fatality on 31 out of its 42 servers. Much like The Lord of the Rings Online, the game still holds a dedicated yet niche following, by and large falling short of being the WoW killer that many predicted that it would be.
It didn't play the way WoW did. Oh, here we go. Here,
In July, in a bombshell announcement at the height of the game's popularity, the power of the dark side could be resisted no longer, as Blizzard's parent company, Vivendi, announced a merger with Activision. Already having gained a reputation for excessive monetization and driving franchises and developers to an early grave, many were dismayed at the news, fearing that the same would become true for their beloved franchises, including the World of Warcraft. Along with EA, they would gain the reputation of exploiting the player base to the fullest extent, and
some things never change.
Spearheads today one of the largest focus on cash shops and pay-to-win game design, and just 1 year later, in September of 2009, Activision Blizzard would release the paid faction change service, And 1 month after that, the paid race change service, along with in-game collectible pets.
I'm so glad that, like, Mad Season actually puts this into perspective. Because this shit happened right after this fucking merger, man. And nobody seemed to realize this. Yeah, it happened right then.
These services were seen by many as an affront on the integrity of the game, and although not terribly impactful by themselves, it was believed that they would serve as a gateway for more damaging paid services to be introduced later. In September of 2008, the release date for the Wrath of the Lich King expansion became set in stone for November.
Nobody wanted to listen.
Just as it was back in 2006, the clock began ticking for players to finish their activities in the Burning Crusade.
You got
before
them.
the
Good show. Now just one moment while I concoct the potion.
The difficulty
Take this invisibility liquor to young Maybell. It should last long enough for her to visit Tommy Joe.
The final patch of the Burning Crusade and the launch of Wrath. Nearly 8 months.
This news is troubling. Already our defenses are stretched thin, and losing Rolf and Malachi to those Murlocs put us in an even worse position. If things don't improve, there will be fighting in Goldshire by the week's end.
Gruul, you didn't really have to do Mag, you didn't really have to do Gruul either, really. Like SSC, Tempest Keep, Hyjal, fucking Black Temple, Sunwell. So like most people always had something.
Take this invisibility liquor to young Maybell. It should last long enough for her to visit Tommy.
Well, they had catch up, but it wasn't all encompassing. So like for example, like the badge vendor would have 3 or 4 items that were Sunwell, you know, trash level quality or like Black Temple level quality, but like that's all you could get. So you couldn't get a full set of gear. You just got 3 items. Like, I remember you got, like, an axe, you got, like, a ring, and, like, a chess piece or something like that. That's it. ZA was catch-up? Yeah, but ZA was still, like, you would do Zul'Aman, and you would still want to do SSC and TK as well, because it had other gear.
To the success and lingering challenge that the expansion had to offer. Those who thought otherwise, though, sought to fill in this void.
Cooking is a lifelong pursuit, and I see we share the same passion.
Online, which saw its release in September. But was it enough to succeed where the Lord of the Rings Online and Age of Conan failed?
No one gave a shit. True.
The game saw similar numbers to the Age of Conan, selling 1.2 million copies at launch, and starting off with a solid subscriber base of 800,000 players. But similar to Funcom's debacle, it simply wasn't ready. Performance issues overshadowed.
I think also, like, for the scope of what Warhammer 40k is, I don't even know if a modern game could do it. Like, you would have to have, like, you'd have to have No Man's Sky plus World of Warcraft plus Elden Ring, like, plus, like, it's just like the scope of it. Warhammer, yeah, but like, yeah.
Well,
I guess, yeah,
look what the cat brung in. And how can I help you, adventurer?
But, like, I feel like a 40k universe would be fucking amazing. I would, if a massive publisher said they were making a Warhammer 40k MMO, I would be so excited. But I feel like it's so hard to do. Like, imagine having a fucking spaceship, you can, like, land on planets and, like, go to war there. It'd be so cool.
What could have been a great
like
experience,
one giant server.
And players that have grown accustomed to World of Warcraft's finely tuned and polished combat system
it was just better.
Immediately noticed a lack of fluidity with its gameplay. Additionally, the game would suffer from major scandals, such as erroneously charging subscribers for years of game time in a single day, with some racking up charges and overdraft